Robert said, I took a picture of a cow last summer. It is one of thousands of pictures that I have taken and never examined. I'm working on now this is the original photo, and then we have, this is his edited photo. Robert says, I'm working on a minimalist approach to editing, crop, rule of thirds, and curves. Definitely not moving the colour levels or sharpness, dehazing, etc. I like the asymmetry of the cow's horns, and this was taken near the golden hour. Let me know what you think and how it could be improved from an editing and photo execution perspective. Now, okay, there's a little thought here which I don't fully follow, Robert, where you say, I'm working on a minimalist approach to editing, crop and curves, as though, right, okay, that's all you're doing. Why? I think there's a, is this a case of you feel that anything more than that is messing about too much and you don't really want to go down that route? Or is it a case of you know where you are with crops and curves, but you're actually looking for more advice on other styles of editing? I think it's difficult to tell with the way that you've written it, and this is where it's always slightly the problem with the difference between writing and chatting. If you're chatting, I can ask you other questions as we're going. I think the idea, the way it's written is I'm working on a minimalist approach to editing, as though you've decided that's what you're going to do. You're going to restrict yourself to a particular style of editing. Now, whether that's exactly what you meant or not, I think it opens up an interesting idea, which is the question of why. Why would you limit your editing? Now, there's limiting editing because those are the only techniques you know. And there's nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong with limiting to the editing that's needed. If it turns out that all it needed was cropping and a little bit of curves adjustment, absolutely brilliant. That's all you need to do. Where I worry is whether that's an idea of, in principle, all I'm doing is that. Because in principle, I don't see the point of drawing a line. I think a photo needs editing as much as it needs editing by whatever techniques it needs to get it to the place you want it to be. And so the question is really with the photo is, where do you want this photo to be? Where are you going to be happiest with it? What are you trying to achieve with it? And if you can achieve that with just a crop and a little curves adjustment, that's great. There's no problem with that. If you feel that you need a bit more editing, then go for the extra editing. Now, so we've got all that. And then the next thing you said is a day or so later, you posted another one. Said, actually, I rather like it flipped, and I use the content aware here for a better crop. Not that one. Where are we? Yeah. So he then flipped it and stretched it out this way. So actually, at that point, you are using more than just crop and light and dark. So you're using the content aware as well and flipping the image. Which is fine, which is great. I think that's okay to do. I must admit, I quite like this flipped one too. And I like I think what I really like about this is the more widescreen aspect of this. This feels more cinematic, because you've got that much wider screen. It gives you that kind of more, cinematic feel. The only feeling for me, apart from the fact that, and you know this already because of something else you've already said, I think, is content aware just means bits get repeated, so you need to clean it up. But there is a lot of space here. You almost kind of want to have a bush or a bit of a tree or something over on the left-hand side, I think. You just need, it's kind of just a little bit too open. There's a lot of space there, you need some space, and I do like that kind of, that long cinematic crop, but you kind of need something else to fill in that space. Now, obviously, there wasn't anything to fill in that space, but whether it's something like a tree, which is here, or in the distance, maybe not too much of distance, just, I don't know, a few meters behind, there was a smaller cow just sort of taking up a little bit of space over here, then I think you would have found a slightly better balance on the photo, because that's kind of what you're looking for, is the balance. So part of this then is, what are you wanting with the story? If the story is just about the cow, then actually there's nothing to stop you just kind of zoom. If it's all about the horns, you can pretty much come in like that. You know, you've got the head and the horns, and that gives you your story. If it's about a cow with a little bit of environment, you don't necessarily need much more than about that. Once you come into this cinematic, you're kind of creating it much more the environment. And for that matter, you know, like I say, you might want to have like a tree or another cow or something like here. And if you don't, if what you're trying to do is say, here's a cow in a vast environment, then you can even stretch that out much, much further. So if we sort of do something like, you know, put that in a, now that obviously content aware, this is a rough filling, but the point is that you would step back further, take your original photo. Is that going to hopefully fill in? I should probably have done this with a smaller version of the photo. I forgot the photos you send me tend to be about 45 megapixels big. So obviously everything takes that bit longer to process. But you see here now, if you're sort of further back, now if you're trying to have that sense of the cow out on the vast Texan plains, then you want to have much more space about it, so that the space around is actually as big a feature of the picture as the actual cow itself. So hope that gives you a couple of thoughts, a couple of ideas on that. So thanks for sending that one in, Robert. Oh, where are we? Okay. Oh, Vandana says, wow, those horns. Pat says, Robert must have been very brave. Robert says, why? Time can... Oh, right. Okay. Different things here. Oh, right. Your why for doing the rule of thirds only and time constraints. I have thousands of photos and not enough time. Well, that's fair enough. But then if you have thousands of photos, you're not needing to edit thousands of photos. You're only needing to edit one. Now, fine, there might be a lot of time to go through the photos, but I think there's a real thing in the fact that pick your photo, pick the photo, pick the single photo you want, and then spend as long as you need to edit that. Better to have one really good photo than to have a dozen mediocre ones. So it's all about selecting the right photo and then editing it as much as it needs to be edited to tell the story that you're wanting to tell. The only reason you do minimal editing on a lot of photos is, well, maybe because the job was asking that. Somebody was asking for you to go out to their ranch and photograph 400 cows, and they're not wanting anything fancy and nothing's going to be put on a poster, and you're just going out and doing 400 photos and just doing minimal editing and handing it over to. That's fine, that's okay to do that. But in your case, I don't think that's, you're wanting to create a single photo, which is going to be really show-stopping. You want people to stop and look at it and go, wow, great photo, or enter it into the competition. At which point, you select the one and then you spend as long as you need to edit it. You don't need to crop and rule of thirds 30 photos. Just find the one that you want and really go for it.